Coming of Age is coming up next. I'm your host, Josh Newby. First today, a look at the pain we all experience from time to time and when to know if it's something more serious. Then we talk about a different kind of pain, a community pain of homeless, felt by a few, but that impacts us all. Finally, we'll wrap up with a rundown of your local library system and the many exciting offerings available this summer. Stay with us. Coming of Age starts right now. As we age, staying active in life and involved in the community can become a challenge. But with Council on Aging of West Florida's range of home-based services, you remain healthy, independent, and engaged. From Meals on Wheels and respite care to senior dining sites and the retreat, you'll feel empowered to regain your freedom while retaining what makes you, you. We've been in the community for nearly 50 years, advocating for elders and supporting those who care for our parents and grandparents. We were there when your father's health began declining, when your mother needed companionship during the day. And guess what? We'll be there down the road when you need those services too. Now, join with us as we talk together about the aging issues that matter to you. A high percentage of adults will experience back or neck pain over the course of their life. But how do you know when that pain is serious enough to visit a doctor? And, more importantly, what can be done to alleviate this pain? Dr. Brian Rosenberg, interventional pain medicine physician at the Andrews Institute, will answer those questions and more. Dr. Rosenberg, thank you so much for joining us today. What are some of the things that you regularly treat at Andrews Institute?
My specialty is physical medicine and rehabilitation. So I'm not a surgeon, but I treat the same types of things you'd expect an orthopedic surgeon to treat. So shoulders, hips, knees. The majority of the patients that are sent to me, though, are for back or neck pain. Sometimes that'll actually be leg or foot pain. You've heard of sciatica before, and that would be leg pain that actually comes from the back. The same thing can happen in the neck with radiation into the arm. So that's the majority of what I see.
And what are some common causes of neck and back pain?
Well, arthritis can cause pain in just about anybody, and it can affect any joint in the body. The spine's no exception. Throughout the spine, all the way from the neck down through, you have facet joints, which are sort of the knuckles between all the joints in your spine. Very common source of pain. Aside from the joints, there are discs and nerves in the spine that can be painful. The discs are cushions. They're like shock absorbers between every bone. As they degenerate, they flatten, they take up some space, and they can actually put pressure on the nerves. We call that stenosis, or narrowing of the tunnel that the nerves travel through. So those are the most common things I see, are either arthritis in the spine or that stenosis.
You know, I think we've all experienced different levels of neck and back pain. I'm curious, at what point does it become something that we need to see a professional about?
Well, everything's worth talking about. No matter how minor the pain might seem, it could be a warning sign of something more sinister, like infection or cancer. So at the very least, if you've noticed neck or back pain, I would at least mention it to your primary doctor.
How treatable are neck and back issues? Do they ever fully go away, or is there a certain level of pain that we should be expected to deal with the rest of our lives?
Well, it's ultimately treatable because the pain we attribute not just to the degeneration that I mentioned before, but inflammation of those problems there. So if you took an MRI of everyone in the world with no pain at all, half of us are going to have degenerative changes in the joints and the discs, like I mentioned before, but that doesn't mean it's painful. If it's inflamed, then it's likely to be painful. And so the pain can fluctuate. What we're trying to do is to treat that inflammation, calm that down, and then the pain goes along with it.
I'm sure many patients, when they hear neck or back surgery or neck or back issues, they think that surgery is going to be involved. But is that always the case?
No, not usually. Again, the pain is attributed to the inflammation. So the majority of the time, things will resolve with conservative care. A lot of times, even just spontaneously. So within about 6 weeks or so, probably 90% or better of back and neck pain will resolve. Not to say it won't come back at another time, but with those episodes, if they last longer than the 6 weeks or so, that's when we usually step in and do something a little more aggressive. So that might be physical therapy. There are whole categories of non-narcotic medicines that can help for those flare-ups. Ultimately, if that doesn't quite do the trick, we can take another step and do what we call interventions. The simplest form of that is if we can find the source of the inflammation, we can deliver steroid directly to that problem under x-ray guidance. And then again, the steroid can help calm down the inflammation. The pain goes along with it. If the pain's coming actually from the arthritis, like I mentioned before, there's a way to turn off the nerves that go to those joints using an electrical procedure called radiofrequency ablation. It's a little more of a tedious process. It takes a couple of diagnostic steps. But if we're able to prove that somebody is a candidate for that procedure, when successful, it'll knock out the pain for anywhere from 6 to 18 months, at which point the procedure can be repeated safely if it needed to be.
I'm sure you see a lot of patients like me who just sort of hope it gets better without any sort of intervention. But does it actually get worse if left untreated, or is there a certain point where it's no longer degenerative, where it's no longer going to get worse?
It can become worse. Ultimately, we're built to self-destruct. So the degenerative changes that I mentioned before, those continue to progress, but that doesn't mean that the pain gets worse. You can have episodes, like I said before, where the inflammation is worse than others. Our goal is to step in during those episodes and calm it down.
I know you mentioned the 6-week time frame earlier as a sort of threshold. Is that what patients can expect in terms of recovery as well?
On the order of 6 weeks. If it hasn't resolved within 6 weeks, that's usually when we start things like the physical therapy and the medicines. Beyond another 6 weeks, that's when I might step in with those interventions that I talked about before. And usually within 6 weeks of starting those interventions, you have an idea of what direction it's heading.
I'm sure most of us have dealt with neck or back pain of some level, especially those who are active or are in sports. But I'm curious if you've ever seen anyone who has never had any sort of neck or back challenge.
I don't know anyone who's completely pain-free. But that said, according to the CDC, if you look at just low back pain, 25% of US adults have reported low back pain in the last 3 months. It's the most common the most common pain complaint people bring to their doctors. Number one most common cause of disability in the world. Thankfully, the cause usually isn't something disabling, but once you've done your workup, you've ruled out something, again, dangerous like cancer. At that point, patients usually can revert to the more standard treatments.
And last question for you, what are some other options available to those seeking help with neck or back pain at Andrews?
Well, the Andrews Institute really does offer the entire continuum of spine care, starting with the most conservative things like I mentioned, the physical therapy, interventions like what I do. When absolutely necessary, there are times when people do need surgery, and we have surgeons who can do that. Ultimately, all the doctors, the therapists at the Andrews Institute, we stay on top of the latest technology. We're not into experimental fads and things that you might see on TV, things like that. But if it's been proven and it's effective, and we'll adopt it. So I suppose, in other words, if the Andrews Institute doesn't offer it, I'm not so sure I would have it done, put it that way.
Dr. Rosenberg, thank you so much for joining us. Next, we are talking about the challenges and possible solutions of homelessness in Escambia County. Stay with us.
The Riesberg Institute, Pensacola's ear, nose, throat, and voice center. We welcome you to visit us at our convenient Davis Highway location in Pensacola. At the Riesberg Institute, we offer the most advanced treatment available in a calm, stress-free environment. Since 2014, we've performed over 1,000 cases in office of balloon sinus surgery, as well as septoplasty and nasal procedures using oral sedation. The in-office procedures result in a faster healing time. Visit us and feel the difference. The Beacon at Gulf Breeze offers the finest senior living community in the area. We are here for your loved ones who need assisted living and advanced memory care services. Seniors will feel right at home with studio, one-bedroom apartments, a large dining area, a beautiful landscape courtyard, and even a salon. With professional staff and one-on-one care, your loved ones are our top priority. Welcome to the Beacon at Gulf Breeze. Welcome home.
Homelessness in this area has long been discussed as one of the region's foremost challenges. We have unprecedented generosity, a roaring housing market, and an economy chomping at the bit to take flight, and yet some spend each and every night without a place to call their own. Well, one collective of advocates is looking to change that through a program called Family Promise. Don Sontheimer, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about Family Promise.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
For those who don't know, and it may be many out there, what is Family Promise?
Sure. Family Promise is a collective, if you will. It's a community-based, we're a non-for-profit, 501(c)(3, registered state, all that paperwork. So I'll just get that language out of the way. But what it is, it's an interfaith organization that brings together congregations of any faith, so it can be Christian, Jewish, Islamic, whatever.
Sure.
Even actually not-for-profit businesses have participated in Family Promise.
Okay.
And what they do is work together to support and take care of homeless families and help homeless families achieve a goal of attaining permanent housing.
Okay. Homelessness, it's such a fraught issue, and I have a fair bit of experience with this challenge in this area. A lot of people who maybe aren't as involved as you and I see homelessness as the Panhandlers, right? That's the most front-facing visual that they have is homelessness. Obviously, there is some overlap there, but it's not entirely overlapped. Talk about homelessness in this area. What would you describe that as?
I would describe it as a growing problem.
Okay.
Certainly if those people who looked at Civicon in the presentation there back in May, the leader there, an expert on homelessness, says we're on the verge of a crisis.
Right.
Just because of the growth in homelessness. And, you talked in the lead about a boom in housing in the market, but affordable housing is a tremendous, tremendous challenge in Escambia County. So Family Promise works at the county level to really help us deal with homelessness, to get families from a homeless state into permanent housing.
Talk about the difference between the panhandlers and the homeless when they don't overlap.
Sure. So these homeless families, I mean, one of the things it's kind of a staggering thing to think of this, but we don't even count people living out of a car as homeless. It's part of the homeless population.
Interesting.
So that doesn't even register under the radar. So we have got families, either living out of vehicles, living in tents or whatever, they're still going to school. There's a significant population of school children in Escambia County every year that are homeless, and their families are still sending them to school. Families are still working.
Okay.
They just can't afford housing.
Gosh, that is tough. But you guys are looking to change that, or at least work towards solving it. And when I first heard about it a couple of years ago, it seemed to me as a somewhat novel approach. You hear about homeless shelters, but this really takes that idea and looks at it from a different perspective. Talk about that model and talk about what success the program has maybe seen in other areas.
Sure. So the model is a very unique one. So as I mentioned at the outstart, it's based on bringing together congregations of faith organizations. And the faith organization agrees to host a family for a week at a time.
Okay.
So currently we have 4 committed faith communities to this effort. Our goal is to get to 13.
Okay.
And so what the faith community does is they're responsible for taking in the family and giving them that housing, if you will.
Sure.
Be it in a church building of some sort that they have, or if they have an apartment near their whatever. They put the family in there, and then their job as a congregation is literally just to be responsible for helping provide a dinner meal.
Okay.
And then overnight place to stay.
Sure.
Then the congregation, or no, actually Family Promise, comes out and picks up the family in the morning and brings them to what we call a day center.
Okay.
That day center is very important. That building houses the family during the day. If the kids are going to school, wherever that day center is, they'll go to the school in that school district. It gives the family an address now so they can start getting paid and things like that. And it also, we have an executive director and a case manager, sometimes that's the same person, working at that day center, providing counseling skills to help them get out of homelessness, budgeting, job searching, finding affordable housing, all those skills. And then at the end of the day, like 5 o'clock or so, then they're driven back to that congregation and dinner, stay the night, repeat. The congregation, does that for 7 days. And then they go to another congregation. And so that's why you look for 13 congregations, because you figure it out 13 4 times a year. That means a congregation only is doing this 4 weeks out of the year, because it rotates amongst the other 13.
And then obviously the goal is that by a certain point that family would phase into some sort of affordable housing or sustainable, more sustainable living model.
If you look, Santa Rosa has been operational in this model for several years, like over 11 years, I believe. They have about a 90% success rate in getting housing within 90 days. And actually, Santa Rosa gets really close within 60 days a lot of the time.
That's impressive.
And Family Promise nationwide has achieved success rates of 80 to 90% of taking in these families and then finding permanent housing.
I know you mentioned that you have 4 churches in Escambia County who are at least interested. Your goal is 13. I'm interested what other community buy-in you've had on this project, because it is really novel.
Obviously there's other efforts to work with homelessness in
Sure.
the community. So we have good relationships with folks that like Opening Doors. Also some people represented from Habitat, or we have people from Council on Aging on
Sure.
working with us. So it's been embraced. The thing is, we're not yet operational. We don't
Okay.
have that day center. So it's a matter of recruiting congregations or businesses and then establishing that day center.
Okay. And then you'll begin, I guess, receiving referrals for the families. How would
Correct.
that work?
Yes, families are referred into the program.
Okay.
That executive director does a screening.
Okay.
One of the things Family Promise, again, because it's pretty much an all volunteer organization with the exception of that executive director.
Right.
These families are screened to make sure there's no history, criminal history, drug abuse, domestic violence, or anything like that. The goal is to have an intact family that literally is just experiencing homelessness and then can be, hosted in a congregation that is safe for everybody involved.
Definitely. I mean, it's really interesting. And like you said, the success rate is so high, but you're not quite there yet, right? You haven't quite achieved liftoff. How can people help?
Obviously, what motivates congregations to join is when a pastor or priest or rabbi hears from the congregation they're interested in supporting a model, they know then that they can get behind that.
Right.
A lot of people would think, oh, you just go talk to the head priest at this place or the head pastor here or the head rabbi. But the rabbi wants, and the faith leader, if you will, wants to hear from the congregation that this is kind of a grounds up thing that everybody's going to support, as opposed to one faith leader trying to push his organization into it.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense to me, and I'll just get on my high horse here for a minute. A lot of those churches are vacant throughout the week, right? And it makes sense to me. That's what the faith community should be doing. And I really hope that you'll achieve more buy-in. I hope you'll be off the ground soon. It's a great initiative. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Coming up, we'll talk about what learning and social opportunities are available through your library system. Stay with us.
Since 1989, TLC Caregivers has been providing the special help people need to stay independent in their own homes. TLC is an employer of choice in the home care market. Our employees are screened with level 2 background screens, drug-free, and have caregiving experience. If you have time, enjoy people, and are interested in joining us, go to tlccaregivers.com to learn more about becoming a TLC caregiver, or visit us in Cordova Square.
For more than 25 years, the potential for health improvement is seen with each patient that walks through our doors. Healthcare decisions don't have to be confusing. Make Island Doctors your medical practice.
My husband and I have been coming to Island Doctors for approximately 10 years, and we have been very happy with them, and we trust them.
Call us today and schedule a tour of one of our locations near you and take a look at our Best Wellness program, and welcome home.
When cancer tries to take you away from the things that matter most, Baptist Cancer Institute offers caring physicians and the most innovative treatment options. With convenient locations and a wide array of support programs and services, we're here to help you during the most difficult of times. As a member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network, we're bringing even more innovative cancer care to our community right here at home. When you need cancer care, we'll be there.
The library is such a special, sacred place of learning, socialization, and community. Unfortunately, this neighborhood cornerstone has been somewhat eclipsed by the convenience that the internet provides. But there is no replacing the opportunities and excitement available at your local library. And as the pandemic winds down and events wind up, we're here to learn about your local library's best offerings. Kimberly Ball, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I was talking before we came on about what a big fan of the library I am, and my son. It's a great institution. But But for those who haven't been to the library, maybe
Sure.
since before COVID, since
Right.
all that happened, what do current operations look like?
Current operations are we've reopened all of our stacks so people
Good.
can come in and browse. That was something that happened during COVID. We had to close just for the safety of everyone. But we have opened all of our stacks except for our children's department in Pensacola Library downtown because it still has Hurricane Sally damage that we're waiting to be fixed.
Right.
So, but still our librarians are there and we can get you anything off the shelf.
Good,
So-
good, excellent. You know, a lot of people maybe who don't frequent the library as much as me or certainly you do. They think of the library, they think, you know, books. You check out books and that's where it starts and ends. But I know you guys have a lot of activities, a lot of opportunities for learning more about the community and socializing with others, and especially some summer programs.
Sure.
What does that look like right now?
So before COVID, we had done a whole series of programs at all of our branches, several programs a week. In 2019, we reached 55,000 people coming to our programs. So when COVID hit, that came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And then we scrambled since then to try to see how we can develop programming, mostly in the virtual realm.
Okay.
A number of the publishers, such as Penguin Random House and Macmillan, have released the rights. So we did virtual story times. That's what we started out, and we did crafts last summer from our children's department, so they could come in and pick them up. And as the years gone by, we've added more and more, like virtual escape rooms, scavenger hunts. They're still up there. People can go and explore those. And just this last week, we've started in-person programming again, so we're starting to gear up. We had Bricks and Flicks downtown where you can come and watch a movie and play with Legos, and we're starting up all our story time. And our theme this month, first theme, is tie-dye and slime.
Okay.
So people can come and get messy. They don't have to make the mess at home.
Love that, right. Let you guys clean up.
Yeah, exactly.
My son, we were speaking, is a big fan of the story time idea. Talk to us more about what story time looks like, what ages it's most appropriate for, stuff like that.
Well, we actually have baby story time, which is from newborns to the age of 2. We focus on song, repetition of words, just getting them to listen and hear words and things like that. For the olders, for toddlers and preschool, we actually start doing more crafts and doing like fine motor activities, doing motion and songs, and trying to develop their alphabet and number awareness, getting them ready for school.
And do you have to like sign up beforehand?
Nope,
you just show it, you look at the
so,
schedule, and which is online,
It's
I
all
assume?
online. It's all on our website. So
Okay.
all of our events, our virtual events, all of our resources are you can have access to it. You can search our catalog. Another thing we've done is develop more of our online resources as far as ebooks, e-audiobooks. We transitioned to Overdrive this last year, so we have thousands of those. Plus we have like 3,300 magazines there, and online classes also through that platform. So if you're curious or need continuing education, that you can check that all out for free.
That was big for me when I discovered that you could rent audiobooks just on the app. On your
and then
phone.
you just play them by Bluetooth on your car.
It's the way
handy.
to go. A lot of our clients are grandparents who are raising their grandchildren.
Sure.
You know, the parents are sort of out of the picture for whatever reason. What are some programs that might be especially interesting to them? They're looking for something to do with this grandchild.
Okay, so some of the things definitely would be the story times.
Sure.
Another would be the STEAM activities. Another is that we have an introductory session with Ancestry.com based that grandparents can. We have handouts that are guided activities that grandparents can work with their grandchildren, learn a little about family history and about the idea of genealogy. So that's online also. You can print them out. You also can pick them up at our local libraries. So, but they can work through, and it's a good time for reminiscing and learning family stories. Ancestry.com right now has under emergency provision that you can actually access it for free. Normally the library subscription's only in-house, but it's right now free through the end of September.
Oh, wow.
So
I wasn't aware of that.
You can get it for free.
Do it while you can,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Tell us, shameless plug here, right before the pandemic, Council on Aging had sort of started a speaker series with you guys, and I understand that we'll be resuming that.
Yay.
Thank you. Talk about what that is.
Okay, so we have a series. We try to support the seniors in our community through sponsoring the space for people to come in and speak to issues to support older individuals. I'm not sure what the term is.
That's fine.
And also too, for the library itself, we have like one-on-one tech help. We have crafting classes, sewing classes. Our whole focus is to try to build a community, especially because loneliness is such a big problem.
You're right.
We have so many people, and that it breaks my heart. I miss the people that were in our sewing class and things like that. A lot of them were retirees, and it was a way to get together.
You are speaking my language. I know. So before, it was funny, before the pandemic, we would tell people, socialize, be with people. And then of course we had to like backpedal, be like, don't socialize right now. But I'm glad that's coming back. Okay. For those who still need the virtual option, or if it's just simply more convenient for them, maybe they live in a rural area, is that going, I'm just curious, do you think that's going to continue into perpetuity, or do you see some of those virtual options phasing out?
We've got really good response from our virtual program, so I think we'll continue, and we'll just add on go back to the in-person programming. Okay. We have drive-throughs through 2 of our branches, Southwest and Tryon, so and we still do the curbside where people can call ahead and come pick up items. And we'll bring them out to the car, so you never have to come into the building.
Great customer service.
Yeah, we also have, we are the regional repository for talking books, and that you can get the free application on our website. You can either do a virtual download on a computer, or you can actually receive the cassette player. It's a little cartridge, and it's mailed from the National Library of the Blind. Okay. So through the Library of Congress, and you can get those books delivered right to home.
Excellent.
So, and if you can't find something at our library, we have interlibrary loan too.
That's right.
So we'll get it from anywhere.
That's right. For you for free.
Yeah, so we'll try. We'll do our best to try to find it.
We have just about a minute left, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. Let's talk about these STEAM kits.
Okay, so STEAM kits. So a couple of years ago, when we had NASA Moon Rocks, we started a badge program. Our summer reading program right now, and that's another thing grandparents can do, is read to their grandkids. That's right. Earn badges and earn prizes through how many minutes they read. So we started these this year with the STEAM kits because, like I said, we had a lot of people come in. We're trying to capture some of that imagination and curiosity. So this is the master kit. This is mine. I was raising monarchs.
I was wondering why it looks so good.
I raised monarchs this spring, so I painted mine and did that. But they get their pencils and crayons, rulers and things. And then every week they come and get a kit. This week's is beekeepers, since they are nature's engineer, and there's chocolate welding kit in there, which is really cool, melting Andes mint, so it's a lot of fun.
Can't lose.
So, and I do want to say one more thing too, that grandparents can come and get food if they're taking care of their grandkids. They can come and get from Feeding the Gulf Coast. We partner with them for free food for breakfast and lunch every day, and you can come and get up to 7 days at a time, and the child does not need to be present.
You know, I was wondering, because I live near the library, I was wondering why I always saw the Feeding the Gulf Coast van or truck outside. That's why I did not know that.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
We fed about 65,000 kids since the beginning of COVID. So that's
needed.
another thing too.
I mean, the library, it's not, so as we've proven, it's not only for books, it's not only for socialization, companionship, and knowledge, but also for food for our older friends, which is wonderful. Yeah, Kimberly, thank you so much. I love the library. Thank you for coming on.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Until next time, enjoy life. You've earned it.